The Education Collaborative was envisioned by Ashesi University back in 2016 when in thinking about our scale strategy as a university, we asked ourselves, how quickly can we really bring about this African Renaissance if we're just doing it within ourselves at Ashesi University? So in thinking around this goal for transformation, we asked ourselves, could we rather bring along other institutions on the continent who buy into this similar vision to work together to really rapidly and quickly scale the outcomes for students on the continent. And so in achieving that, we've had to work through the differences in culture, the differences in context, the differences in types of institution, right? So those have really been our biggest challenges. And in tackling that, we've had to take a very organic approach to building the relationships and the connections that we've established in the Education Collaborative. So I would say the university leaders really have been our biggest ally, working through the kinks together, working through how to collaborate more efficiently and effectively, and helping us to determine where to prioritize resources and efforts to ensure the best outcomes. Also, a very notable ally has been the MasterCard Foundation in believing in this vision, in this initiative, and supporting through its resourcing for the next few years. In the last 3 years, we have been rolling out our 10-year strategy, ending in 2030. In doing that, we've really figured out how best to set up a regional hub, because the Education Collaborative is organized or implemented through regional hubs to drive further contextualization and relevance of the solutions and the sharing that happens. And in the last 3 years, one of the biggest successes is setting up these regional hubs. We set up East African Hub with about 10 institutions being the anchors in that region. And then we set up with the West Africa regional hubs with close to 15 higher education institutions really driving priorities in that region. So the future looks like institutions seamlessly working towards one goal for transformative higher education in Africa. And I think that's one of the biggest goals we are working towards in the Education Collaborative, to build a certain culture of trust such that institutions at any point feel like they can rely on each other to learn, to address challenges, and to make progress in giving quality education to the students that come through their systems and structures.
Professor Laban Ayiro is a full professor of research methods. Just like I mentioned, the current Vice-Chancellor at Daystar University since 2019. And he has done quite a bit of transformation at Daystar since he came. And we appreciate him as our Vice-Chancellor. Before then, he was the acting Vice-Chancellor at Moi University. He's also a senior Fulbright scholar. He's a leading consultant in the field of research, leadership, and performance. And I would not want to enumerate all that. He has won several awards. And again, there are many. Let me just mention one, which is relevant to this particular webinar. In August this year, he was awarded by the Institute of Certified Secretaries, ICS. His training is not in that field, but this ICS, the Institute of Certified Secretaries, they assessed his leadership. And they give, the ICS gives very few people that are those that are not in that profession. And he's one of those that was honored. And maybe just to cite a few things that they said as they were honoring him. They said that they were honoring him because of his outstanding performance and contribution to the nation and institute in the area of governance. And I think that is why we are here this day. So without much ado, I would then like to invite Professor Laban Ayiro to take it up from there. It will take about 50 minutes. We'll take another 20 minutes in terms of question and answer. So please, when you have questions, put them on the chat. We'll be able to pick them up so that we are able to save on time, even as we continue in this. So welcome, Professor Laban Ayiro. Take it up from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Michael Owen, moderating this session. I would like to thank the organizers, the Education Collaborative, for giving me this singular privilege to share my thoughts on the value of integrity and the whole area of ethical behavior in universities or in higher ed, not just in Africa, but across the globe. So I'm truly privileged, and I just want to provoke people's minds. Please don't let my background be a disruption. I was just standing at the university, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and that's the background of Jerusalem city, and I was meditating on when the trumpet shall be called on that day. So I like that background always. But coming back to what you have asked me to do, fostering a culture of integrity and ethics in universities is very vital for promoting academic excellence, ensuring fairness, and building trust within the institution and the wider community. I think, first of all, as a leader, you cannot promote academic excellence, you cannot ensure fairness, and even build trust with your students and your colleagues, faculty, and other members of staff if they doubt your integrity and ethical behavior as you run that institution, or as you run that department, or as you run that directorate, or even as you study in that university. So for me, my thesis is that integrity and ethics are cornerstones of a university's mission to provide quality education, conduct credible research, and most importantly, develop responsible future leaders. And I think those of us from the African continent, when we survey our landscape, I think that the things that bother us most is, the conduct of our leaders, not just political leaders, but leaders even in our churches. That we don't see responsible leadership, and it goes back to those cornerstones of any university's mission to provide quality education by holding on to firmly the constructs of integrity and ethical behavior. So I want, as I thought about this topic, I thought I would do an analysis of the importance and challenges, and then strategies for cultivating a culture of integrity and ethics in our universities. So first of all, what is the importance of integrity and ethics? And how does it impact on the behavior of the products in our universities? First of all, there's academic credibility. I think integrity in research and teaching underpins the credibility of a university. So it is so important that we inculcate these aspects in our schools or our campuses to ensure that ethical academic practices are held without wavering, because these practices ensure that, for example, the research findings that come out of our universities are reliable, and that our students are actually being turned into what God intended them to become, and that even on the part of faculty, that the students are assessed fairly, safeguarding the institution's reputation. Ethical practices in teaching foster a fair learning environment, ensuring that students receive the education they deserve without bias, without plagiarism, which we keep hearing, or academic dishonesty. I think even as I thought about this presentation, I asked myself, are we pitching this too high? Is this achievable? So I want to argue to the congregation on this platform that ethics will allow for academic credibility. That's number one. Number two, ethics and integrity foster responsible citizenship. I think we know that universities shape future leaders, professionals, and citizens. So that is our job. So instilling ethical values in students ensures they understand the importance of integrity in their professional and personal lives. We have a contribution to make. So we are responsible to produce, or for producing, graduates who are not only skilled in their disciplines as doctors, as lawyers, as engineers, as teachers, as psychologists, as economists, but they also understand the ethical responsibilities to society. So, and we know it, we see it in our professions, various professions, that those who flourish and those who have impact are those who, first of all, gain the expertise from our universities, but also, more importantly, they uphold the expected ethical responsibilities, and so society views them that way. The third component is building trust. And trust is at the foundation of every human endeavor. Trust is essential in the academic environment, just like trust is essential in the family, just like trust is almost mandatory in our churches, in our mosques, and in every other social fabric of our society. So in the academic environment, trust becomes critical. So when universities consistently adhere to ethical standards, they build trust. with students, with faculty, and even with the funding bodies and society at large. So I want to argue that without integrity and ethical behavior, trust will not exist. And I want to say for us in the academia, this trust extends to research collaborations, partnerships with industry, and international engagements, which actually depend on the institution's ethical standard. So I get scared when universities, at the urgings of political favors, at the urgings of ethnic considerations, at the urgings of nepotism, and other undesirable criteria, actually lose trust. You're putting your institution's ethical standing in jeopardy. So we must convince ourselves as people in the academia that we are the standard bearers. Is it easy? No. Are we really protected from our inner human failings? No. But it must be something you will defend, you are prepared to die for, as Winston Churchill said about defending his motherland. The fourth aspect is promoting social justice. I think this is very important. And where does promoting social justice come from? It comes from a very strong background of upholding integrity and ethical behaviors. So ethics in universities promote equality and fairness. I think so. So we don't see people in terms of class. We don't see people in terms of ethnic orientations or racial orientations, or even gender. So ethics in universities promote equality and fairness, which in effect is a measure of promoting social justice. So what am I talking about when I say promoting ethics in universities, promoting equality and fairness? What am I talking about? This includes transparency in admissions. So you know that the office of the registrar in a university is the custodian of transparency in admissions, grading, faculty recruitment, and preventing discrimination or favoritism. Now, it is a high calling, given the human inhibitions that we all carry. But in my university, I try. I argue with myself inward many times. Am I being fair? Am I being fair? And the best way to look at promoting social justice is just to ask yourself, is this decision fair? Or is it going to cause pain to that other individual? Unless the person cause the pain towards themselves, I think a university should create a culture where there is fairness and there is social justice, so that even when you are denied anything, or when somebody else is promoted, you will say, no, this was fair. I think so-and-so deserved this, I did not deserve. So universities, therefore, in all your processes, right from admissions, grading, faculty recruitment, must prevent discrimination and favoritism if your standing in terms of integrity and ethical behavior is strong. My ambition is at my university to ensure that we can serve as a model for inclusivity. We're talking about social justice. So Kenya has 42 tribes, 47 tribes or whatever, 42 plus. We at Daystar must serve as models for inclusivity. Of course, there are historical permutations that you can't overcome in 5 years, 10 years. But when you start, make sure that inclusivity and diversity and respect for human rights, so that all students and staff are treated equitably when opportunities arise or during their environment, their social interactions are taking place. I'm arguing this, that when we talk about ethical, we talk about integrity, we talk about social justice and equality, we are actually looking for a moral ecology to be embedded in every institution that will see to it that the things I've mentioned, promoting social justice, building trust, fostering responsible citizenship, and academic credibility of the institution, are truly outcomes from a well thought out moral ecology of your institution. Allow me now to talk about challenges to integrity and ethics in universities. And we do have those challenges. I think it would be naive to imagine that we don't have those challenges. We do have those challenges to integrity and ethics in universities. We have those challenges. And I would like to speak to them briefly. One is academic dishonesty. We have to talk about this. Cheating, plagiarism, and falsifying data when you go out for that data collection and research are pervasive issues that challenge the integrity of universities worldwide. So the pressures to succeed academically, combined with easy access to information, make academic dishonesty a very prevalent problem. So let us not be blind to that challenge. And in fact, we need to be alive to that challenge so that we can strengthen our determination to overcome those inhibitions. So addressing, for example, academic dishonesty requires a multifaceted approach, from creating awareness of ethical standards to implementing stringent penalties for violations. So sanctions. So you create awareness and then you have sanctions. And these are challenges I'm sure colleagues who are on this call will agree that one of the biggest challenges to academic integrity and ethics at universities is academic dishonesty. And we must have a multifaceted approach. We must create awareness. We must over-communicate on this vice. And then we must have stringent, sanctions in place. The other challenge is pressure to publish and funding bias. So the publish or perish culture places immense pressure on faculty to produce research publications, sometimes leading to unethical practices such as data manipulation, plagiarism, and predatory publishing. I think I'm talking to a common audience here. So there is that pressure to publish, and then funding bias. Competition for funding can also lead to conflicts of interest, where researchers may be tempted to alter findings to align with the desires of sponsors or funding bodies, thereby compromising the integrity of research outcomes. What a narrow path we are called to walk if we are to uphold ethics and integrity in our universities. So that's the second challenge. I have said in my best of minds, academic dishonesty is one of the biggest challenges to integrity and ethics. Number two, the pressure to publish and funding bias, getting money for your university. And number three, nepotism and corruption. Nepotism and corruption. And we must face this dragon in Africa and slay it. So in some universities, favoritism in hiring, admissions, or grading can erode trust in the institution's fairness. Nepotism and corruption. Now, this undermines meritocracy and fosters an environment where ethical standards are ignored. One of the worst things that can happen in a university is when you allow for nepotism and corruption to determine your hiring and even admissions, you're walking towards mediocrity. And you'll find it very hard to overcome because those people will sit, you have hired, they will sit in that university for 20 years. And if it was not based on meritocracy, then you can be sure your desire to be ranked highly, to publish, to attract funds, to build the university's alumni that impact the world will have gone down the drain. Corruption within administrative processes, such as procurement, what a monster, or financial management, can damage the university's credibility and affect its operations. I want to emphasize here that what we see in society, for example, in our Kenyan society, we are just a microcosm of that society. And so we must be alert and exercise utmost astuteness and fairness if we are going to overcome the monster of nepotism and corruption. The other challenge is lack of ethical leadership. And by the way, I am not Jesus, but I try to lead like Jesus. Leadership plays a crucial role in fostering a culture of integrity. If we university leaders do not prioritize ethical behavior, the institution will struggle to enforce ethical policies and standards. You are the yardstick as a leader. So, lack of ethical leadership will trickle down through the whole system, And I'm urging those of us who God has put in positions of privilege to lead the universities to ensure that we do what is humanly possible to exercise ethical leadership. And I'm repeating that if university leaders do not prioritize ethical behavior, the institution will struggle to enforce ethical policies and standards. So the things, the vices I've talked about up there, if you are a perpetuator of all those things, then this effort will come to nil. So the absence of role models within the faculty or administration can also lead to an erosion of ethical standards across the institution. And it starts from the top. Finally, allow me, coordinator, to touch on strategies for cultivating a culture of integrity and ethics. How do you do that? I think the first step, the first requirement, the first criteria is to institutionalize ethical policies. Institutionalize ethical policies and be courageous and bold to adhere to them. So universities should create and enforce clear codes of conduct for both students and staff, covering areas such as academic honesty, research ethics, and professional behavior. By the way, it is not just clear codes of conduct. It has to be experiential. The students must see it in you. The faculty must see it in the head of department or their dean. And the rest of the university must see it in their president, in their vicar, or in their vice-chancellor. So it is very important that we create the codes of conduct for both students and staff. But for me, the bigger thing is that you must be practitioner number one. Policies should also include guidelines on conflicts of interest, whistleblower protection, and the consequences of unethical behavior. And this ensures everybody understands the standards and the potential repercussions of any violations. So, you know, the basic principle in relationships, one principle is that you assume that all human beings are good and they detest evil. The other principle is that all human beings are evil and you put measures to prevent them perpetuating that evil. Both of those must be embedded in our effort at cultivating integrity and ethical behavior in our institution. So that is very important, to institutionalize ethical policies. The second one is promoting academic integrity. I think educational institutions should focus on promoting awareness of academic integrity from the beginning of a student's academic journey. And this is important. Incorporate discussions on plagiarism, on proper citation, and recognition of other people's work, and ethical research practices should be emphasized. And introduce plagiarism detection software. We all have it in our universities, and create honor codes, and students reward those who show utmost integrity and ethical behavior, so as to embed that culture in our universities. Yes, we can also set up committees, ethics committees or offices. Both academic integrity and research does help as a space of reference when things go wrong. So the committee should be empowered to investigate, resolve complaints, and references to ethical breaches. And have an office dedicated to ethics, led by a respectable professor, administrator, who will be looking at these ethical issues. And ethical issues start with small things like turning up for class. Not just the lecturer, but the student. How do you conduct your research? How is your teaching? And so on and so forth. As I finish, I really would urge for ethical leadership and role models. Can some of us sacrifice to be the models? Ethical leadership from the top is critical.
Oh, yeah, no, it's fine. I wasn't sure.
To setting the tone for the entire institution. I was dealing with strategies for cultivating a culture of integrity and ethics. And we said the first thing is to institutionalize ethical policies in our institutions. I had also mentioned promoting academic integrity, where we sensitize our students and our staff on through discussions on matters plagiarism, proper citation, ethical research practices, and get the software in our libraries, in our departments that detects dishonesty, and commit faculty and students to ensuring that integrity is upheld. I also propose ethics committees and offices to be established, and men and women of integrity positioned there, and they should be empowered to investigate and resolve complaints and any ethical breaches. And for me, having an office dedicated ethics led by a respected and senior member of the community would be a point towards your seriousness in terms of insisting on ethical behavior in the institution. I was on ethical leadership and role models. I think the top is critical for setting the tone for the entire institution. So in matters of publications, in research, in matters of administration, in matters of fairness, university leaders should publicly commit to integrity, demonstrating transparency and accountability in all that we do. Is it easy? No, it's a high calling, but this is our aspiration. This is our event. If you read the book of Revelations, that path is rugged and narrow, and we must be prepared to walk on it. So I think faculty and staff should act as ethical role models, teaching by example and mentoring students on the importance of ethical behavior, both academic and professional settings. And of course, it starts with staff being engaged in publications and mentoring students to know that you can actually do things right, and in that way, they last and they elevate you. We should also insist on ethics in research. I think we read about it, we teach about it, but we must establish clear ethical guidelines for research, including proper treatment of subjects, human and animal, conflicts of interest, and very honest reporting. And I think, like when I was in Texas A&M in the US for my postdoctoral studies, I had to undergo ethics training and got certification before I even did my own data collection out there. So all research involving human subjects should be reviewed by the institutional review boards, the IRBs. I'm told in Kenya we have adopted a different name, but there must be institutional review boards that ensure compliance with ethical standards. The area of transparency in decision-making touches on integrity and ethical behavior. So we must promote transparency in critical decision-making areas, such as hiring faculty, promotions, when people are coming for senior lecturer, coming for associate or full professor. We must promote transparency in those areas as faculty are being hired, students are being admitted or being given scholarships and bursaries, and even in research funding allocations. So publicly available reports on finances, audits, and governance decisions can also help ensure accountability, building trust in the institution's integrity. At Daystar, when I first suggested that the finance department should actually, in our retreats with senators, should bring out all the accounts, all the income items, all the bids, funding. There was a lot of uneasiness. But you know, that ventilates, that frees you from carrying the burden of suspicion. The senators, my deans, my HODs know the allocations, know where we are not doing well, know our revenue collection levels. That's where it begins. And then it should go into the departments. I advocate for rewarding ethical behavior. We haven't started in my institution, but I want to dare my management team that we should recognize and reward ethical behavior among students, faculty, and staff. I think it is very helpful. And this can be through rewards, scholarships, and public recognition for those who demonstrate high ethical standards. I know we reward hardworking workers and professors, but this should be a reward tied to ethical standards, ethical research practice, and academic integrity should be as valued as the quantity of publications, academic results. So creating a balance between ethical conduct and academic achievement. So we don't just give you those rewards for prolific publications, but also the ethical aspect. I also hope that in Africa, we can have ethics education and training. We should embed ethics education across disciplines, ensuring that students are equipped with ethical reasoning skills in their fields of study. And ongoing ethics training for faculty and staff is essential, keeping them updated on the latest ethical guidelines, research protocols, and professional standards. Coordinator, in conclusion, building a culture of integrity and ethics in universities requires a concerted effort from all stakeholders, including students, faculty, administrators, council, company, trustees, government bodies. And integrity in academic work, ethical leadership, transparent decision-making, and fostering an environment where ethical behavior is recognized and rewarded are critical steps toward ensuring that universities remain pillars of knowledge, justice, and responsible citizenship. The university is the apex, is the model, is the canon that every country looks upon. And we can only sanctify the purity of universities, the goodness of universities, as the echelons of where things are done right, if we hold on to tenaciously ethical behavior and uphold integrity all the time. Thank you very much for allowing me to share my thoughts in this area. Over to you, Coordinator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Laban Ayiro. We can give him the digital clap. It's given us quite some concentration in terms of this field. So we would like to appreciate, and you've ended well, that the universities need to lead in this. Because in fact, there's one of the questions that I've seen. Somebody's wondering if there's trouble at home, in the church, in religious institutions. But I think you've ended by saying that the universities then should take lead in this. We would then want to transition probably to a session of questions. I've seen some comments, some questions on the chat. You can keep them coming. Being a quantitative positivist, I hear you saying, Professor Ayiro, that there's a direct correlation between performance of universities, how they perform, and the integrity and ethics. And maybe then this is a hypothesis that we need to take to the research field, but probably might have some comments later on. As Mr. Fred Rotich is helping us to get more questions and comments, we would like to appreciate a comment from Patrick, a number of comments, Diane, but maybe we can begin, Professor Ayiro, with these 3 questions here. We can begin with this. And somebody is asking about the importance of a code of ethical behavior in the promotion of ethics in higher education. So just can look at that, the importance of a code of ethical behavior and conduct in the promotion of ethics in higher education. And somebody's, I think this is also very similar. The first one was Jiang, this is Emmanuel. Integrity, this is somebody referring to probably what we've had in our universities, the issue of cash and sex for marks. And somebody is asking what this is Emmanuel actually asking, what do we do as far as this is concerned? I hope I'm not moving too fast. I think Winfred Mweni is wondering, because with the lack of role models in integrity and ethical leadership in our families, church, and nation, how are we going to challenge this challenge of corruption, lack of integrity, and lack of ethics?
Okay, maybe I can continue probably reading whatever is on the chat. I can see Adebisi appreciating Professor for the wonderful presentation. And talking about this is actually what we need as a faculty, staff, students. And something else which Professor can give comment later on when he comes back. Charles is asking, can suppositions at the university be rotational? And I want to agree with him. And basically, probably Professor Ayiro will be able to give some comment on that. Now, with that, maybe Professor, we can give you a chance to give comments to the questions raised on the chat. Thank you.
Dr. Thanks for picking those. Professor Ayiro, I think apparently, he had a challenge, but he's coming back. So maybe we can take more questions. Dr. if you don't mind, please, you can write them down for us, and then we'll present them. Even the first ones, I think we might have to repeat the ones that I said earlier. So Dr. Justin Naga, if you are here, we can't see. Yes, there is one about the positions at the university, be rotational. We want to open it up. You can just raise up your hand. We should be able to see you. And then you can ask your question verbally. Somebody said, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Yes, we're having a bit of a technical challenge, but I'm sure Prof Ayiro will be able to join us and respond to those questions. But in the meantime, actually, we have a few resources. When Prof Ayiro was discussing some of the strategies, the Education Collaborative had a program, Giving Voices to Values Africa, both for faculty, staff, or for leaders, not just in academia, but also even in this industry, and one specifically for students. I'm going to invite my colleague just to discuss a bit about that program and how the participants in this room can take advantage of it, can join and take the course. I'm sure Dr. Jusa is actually one of the participants in that course and has completed that course. Maybe can even share some of the learnings from taking that course. So apart from that, also we have other resources that are available, such as a honor code manual that was developed by another institution. So my colleague will just mention and speak to those as we wait for Prof Ayiro to come in and respond to the questions. Grace.
Thank you so much, Roland. Thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed the session, and I liked Prof's example about rewarding, recognizing ethical behavior. That's really, really exciting. We have Education Collaborative, we have resources that could assist institutions to build their ethical culture. So one of it is the GVV Africa course. So this is a self-paced course online that staff and faculty can take. So when you go to the website, it will be put on the chat. You'd see all the guidelines that you could take to take that course. So please go to the website, and when you have questions, you can always email us. It's very, very important that as faculty, as staff, as leaders, we are able to take this course to be able to hone, see how we are able to take that ethical action and also translate it to the students in the classroom. So it's very, very important for us. Another version of the course that we are working on is for students. That will be available to launch in 2025. So look forward to it. So it's a version of the course for the students within your institutions. They'll have the opportunity to be able to take the course. Then the last thing that Rotish mentioned is the Anna Code Manual. So a few years ago, Ashesi University mentored the Kibi institution to develop an ANA system for their institution. So this manual is a guide that helps institutions to develop their own ANA code system. So an ANA code is a set of guidelines, principles that govern a community. So it can be an academic ANA code or a social ANA code. So at Ashesi University, for those of you who know, students sign on to the ANA code and they don't have invigilators during exam. So these are sets of principles that the students and then the faculty are owning within their institution. So institutions here can also take this manual, learn about how Ashesi does it, and also contextualize for their own institutions. So if you are interested in receiving the ANA code manual, the evaluation form we are going to share with you, there is a question in there that is going to ask you if you'd like to receive the manual. Once you say yes, we'll send it to you. It's really, really exciting and would be interesting to see how institutions here also develop a similar system if you don't already have it. But there's a lot to learn in that manual. So these are the resources that are available, and we hope that you take advantage of it. But it's exciting to hear how Daystar University is also building that ethical culture. It is very difficult and tough, like Prof has said, but there are systems that could be put in place within the institutions to hold ourselves accountable. It's very, very important. So the GVV Africa course and then the ANA code manual is available to all institutions here. There's a hand up. I don't know if it's a question for me.
Yeah, there is a hand up from Stephen.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I like the content that is being shared. The question I have is about training students on ethical issues or training staff, because I've seen some cases where in that course, the ethics course, that course students still cheat in the exam. After teaching a whole semester, they still cheat in that course. So what is the failure? Is it they don't have the knowledge, or it's the culture, or what is it? That's something that I've noticed many times.
I'm sure Prof can take that question, but I'll take a shot at it. I think it's a process, right? We are all building that system, and it's not going to be perfect. But once you have students who have said that they are going to hold their fellow students accountable, if in that classroom you have a student also reporting that incident, it shows that there's some progress. Right? It takes some time for people to understand. So let's say in Ashesi University, the students hold a couple of conversations before they sign on to the code, because it's important that everybody understands what they are signing on to and what it means, right? So that's what I would say. It's not a perfect system. We even in Africa, there are countries that are more corrupt than others, right? It's a process. And I believe we'll get there. That would be my answer, but I'll throw it to Professor Bowen, and then he can address that. Thank you.
Thank you. As we wait for Professor Laban Ayiro to come, I think I agree with Grace. We want to make some steps, positive steps. If you remember what Professor Laban Ayiro said, he said that I am not Jesus, but I try to live like him. That was very profound for me. And therefore, I think we must make attempts. In fact, I agree with you, Grace, because I've seen a number of questions that seem to suggest some level of maybe this, we can't do anything here. And I think the Professor Ayiro has actually challenged us. I mean, we working at the university in terms of thought, in terms of academic prowess, we are the best brains of the nations that we come from. And therefore we must provide solutions. I don't think we can't escape this. And therefore, even if it means making some small steps, we should be able to do something. And I can tell you that I can confirm what we have seen at Daystar since Professor Ayiro came in. We've seen quite some improvement. Like I was saying, if the measure of success of a university in terms of its advancement is integrity and ethics, then it is true. We have seen this in terms of growth of the university and so on. Of course, like I said, that is a matter of research that I think we need to, and we'll continue to talk to Education Collaborative in terms of what we can do. But basically, I think these are some of the things that we have to look at and confront. One of the greatest challenges that, for example, that I see personally is we teach, and I think the previous person that was asking the question, we do teach, but we don't see sometimes it being practiced by the, so the theory and the practice, and that is what we need to ask ourselves. What can we do to be able to cover that gap in terms of the theory that we teach and the practice that we see out there? And I think it has to begin with us as academicians. Fred, do you think Professor Ayiro has come? Not yet?
No, Prof. I don't think he is not. He's not in the room yet. But I believe what we can do is we've taken the comments. We've noted the comments and the questions in the chat, and we'll compile them together. Of course, after this session, in the next couple of days, we'll try and make it available, the recording and also the meeting notes for reference for all the participants who joined us. And we'll try and also liaise with Prof on some of those questions, if he could be able to add his voice and just respond to them then. But I really am grateful for everyone for showing up to this speaker series session. And thank you, Prof Bowen, for also responding to the questions as best as you can, and also for all the questions and comments. So this is just to say a big thank you. And of course, the resources, as we've mentioned, are available. Right now on the chat, you'll see a link. It's an evaluation link for your experience about today's speaker session, but also there's that important question. Would you like to receive these resources? If you just take yes, we'll be able to send that over to you and you can immediately start using it. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach back and contact us at education.collaborative@ashesi.edu.gh, and we'll be glad to work together with you on how to implement maybe a honor code at your institution, or even enroll for the Giving Voices to Values program. Otherwise, I just want to say a big thank you once more to Prof Bowen, Prof Ayiro, for the time and for the insights he shared on creating a culture of integrity on campus, practical approaches to promoting integrity, ethical behaviors among faculty, staff, and students. Also, we are going to have another speaker session coming up next week, actually on the 26th. It's on entrepreneurship, and it will focus on the role of tech transfer office in higher education institutions, unlocking the value of intellectual property in research. You can look out for this. We'll be sending out an email inviting you to register for this session. And I hope to see you there as we also look at the role of tech transfer offices in higher education institutions. Otherwise, thank you once more for joining us. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning from wherever you're joining us. Asanteni.